Hello, everybody. Today, I want to talk about this notion of whether, if you want to seek balance in your life, how do you achieve this? Because we know that, and you have probably seen it in my previous videos, especially in the Abstracto playlist, where I talk about how balance is the joining of the two extremes or the two opposites that live within you, right? Now, I was thinking about this because you know, whenever people will talk about a problem they have, they will probably give as an advice something like, avoid the extremes, right? And I think this is particularly in Mexico, where they will say you shouldn't be extremist. You shouldn't go, even the expression like extremes are bad, or everything in excess is bad, everything in extreme is bad, is like a more of a Mexican term, right? Because I think in the United States, or Americans actually tend to go to those extremes, and you can kind of see this like as a way of being active and proactive, right? Like, it's this. So let's just go do it. Let's go build that street. Let's go build that road, right? Let's go build that bank, that construction, that building, whatever. And some of it may be good, some of it may be bad, but most of it is good, and it's working, it's functioning, the system is good. Whereas in Mexico, you may get more of that like doubtful behavior, more hesitation, like it could be, but it also can't be. Like they say Libra specifically is a sign, a really mental sign, but being really mental sometimes leaves you only wondering endlessly and lost in that mental realm, right? Where you're just there thinking about potentials, possibilities, what could go wrong, what could go right, what alternatives do I have, which I mentioned in my video on the power of hypotheticals is a good thing, but eventually you need to act, right? And that action demands a black or white perspective of things, right? It's like Mance Raider, I think his name is, from Game of Thrones. He gets burned alive. He's the leader of the Wildings, and Jon Snow tells him right before he gets burned alive. He tells him like, "You're making a big mistake," right? And Mance says, "That's all I ever wanted. I wanted my freedom to make my own mistakes," right? So I may be wrong, but they're my mistakes, right? They're nobody else's. I'm not hesitating. I'm not in it like halfway, right? So I think that is also an important consideration. Now, I'm thinking, where do these extremes meet, right? Well, they obviously meet in the middle. But the question here is balance in the extremes, that is pulling from the black and the white, pulling from the far right and the far left? I mean, is it really a way to reach balance? Or is the way to reach balance is by being in the middle, right? Being hesitant, being considerate, considering this, considering that. It's like, how do you live the balance in your life that you're supposed to live, right? Let me give you like a concrete example. Let's say you like partying, but you're also a hard worker. So you play hard, you work hard. How are you supposed to reach that balance? Here is a version of the first notion, which I talk about, the black or white version, right? Like, basically, the way this would go is, Monday to Friday, you work your butt off, and then Friday and Saturday, you party till you black out, right? This means you're going from like being really hard working and dedicated to like being totally irresponsible and drunk, right? And that's balance, you could say, because you are reaching a balance karmically or universally, right? Another one is that you say, okay, I like to party and I like to work, so I tone down my dedication at work, and I kind of elevate a little bit my play, right? Me being fun and outgoing and everything, right? And I just distribute this throughout the 7 days of the week. That's also balance, right? But that's balance in the middle. That's like, maybe instead of having 20 beers on the weekend, I'll have like 2 every day or 3 every day, right? In the afternoon. So for me personally, I wouldn't really like to have that balance, because balance in the middle requires doing things halfway, right? I think I would prefer personally to go from like one extreme to the other extreme. Now, this is something I was just speaking with somebody, and they were telling me that I shouldn't see things so black and white, which I think, but you also need to consider when, right? If you say, well, it's always good to see things either in black or white, or go from one extreme to the other, you may be right, but you may also be wrong. So you do need to consider the gray area. I'm all for the gray area and being in the middle at times also, when you do need to ponder and reflect about things. But you need to know when to do that, right? Because I think there are moments where, especially in complicated communication, where you may need to find that middle balance and say, okay, it's neither this nor that, right? It's going to be somewhere in the middle, and we need to find a solution to this where it's like splitting the difference. And there's a book by Chris Voss called Never Split the Difference. So this is literally like, I think the example someone uses, or he uses, is like, if you both, like, let's say you and your friend want the same pair of shoes. So you say, okay, how about we split the difference? You get a pair, you get a shoe, and I get a shoe. So then I have only one shoe, right? And on the other foot, I don't have the other shoe because my friend has the other shoe, right? So that's fair, right? But it's really not, because you can't even use it if you don't have the other shoe, right? So yeah, I think the balance for me most of the times is in those extremes, maybe reducing the intensity of the extremes, right? So they're not so far out there. I think that may be the best alternative to the extremes, because the extremes can be very intense and very far away from each other, so much that in order to get from one extreme to the other, it may take, it may exhaust your resources, your time, your mental stability. So maybe just reducing those extremes, right? Where you do go from one extreme to the other to get things done the way you're supposed to get them done. But just reducing that intensity, right? Like lowering it down. Yeah, so that distance is less. But yeah, I think living in the middle per se is not a really good idea. It makes you an indecisive person, and it could make you a person that just doesn't know how to take action, doesn't know how to make decisions, that's just left in that pool of pondering and thinking and visualizing things, but never actually getting anything done, right? Never actually doing anything. So let me know what you think. Is it better to find that balance in the extremes or in the middle? And that's all I got for this video, so I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.